Let's take a look at a breakdown of how the economy has fared in the past few months, I would say, from the beginning of the year, this year. Now, statistics by the National Bureau of Statistics is showing, the spike, the inflation rate that we have experienced as far as food is concerned. Now, in January, you would find that 1 kg of tomatoes, costs barely about 115 Naira. And now we are seeing in the last statistics that was taken in September, it's showing about 555 Naira. Same goes for yam. 1 kg cost about 220 Naira in January. Now it is going for about 500 Naira. Beef, 1 kilo of beef was going for around 1,700 Naira. Now it's going for 2,400, some places 5 and even 8 in some cases. The numbers are not looking good. Palm oil, for instance, also 1 kg from January was around 700 Naira. And now we are talking about 850 Naira. What exactly, is going on, some will say. We have an expert in the studio to give us answers to all of these things, and he is Dr. Samson Galadima Simon, and he is an economic expert to spotlight what's the cause for Nigeria's inflation, really. Good morning, and it's good to have you join us.
Good morning, thank you.
Welcome
for
to the
having
show.
me. Thank
First, let me get your reaction on the story of a man who is putting himself for sale at the cost of 20 million Naira.
It breaks my heart. It's extremely sad in my view. But I understand. Times are really hard. Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world, and inflation is not letting off. It's getting worse. And food inflation is the worst of them all. If you look at it, the core inflation is in the region of 14%. The last data that came out from MBS, food inflation is higher than headline, is what is causing the headline inflation to go up. And people are struggling. Families are being beaten by this high inflation. People are really struggling. It's just so sad. But that's the situation we are in, and I don't think it's the right thing to try to sell yourself. It looks hilarious in a sadistic way, but I think it's not palatable at all. It's so sad.
So could you walk us through, to some of the causes, of the rising inflation we see in Nigeria?
All right. The Monetary Authority, the central bank, alongside the MBS, attributes our inflation to structural rigidities, the border closure, hike in the price of fuel, increase in electricity tariff, the insecurity, particularly in the food belt of Nigeria. But I think they're really oblivious. I think they're burying their heads in the sand. There is a big factor. According to Milton Friedman, the great monetary economist, he said inflation always and everywhere is a monetary phenomenon, in the sense that it is caused early. It can be caused early, but more rapid increase in the quantity of money than in output. The central bank has been abusing the ways and means. There is this, in the CBN Act 2007, it states that the central bank can actually come to the rescue of the government if they have short-term problem in their income. The government has short-term income problem. The central bank actually come to the rescue. But the law says it should be 5% of previous year's revenue. Ask me how much they have been doing it. They have been doing it way more than 5%. And the law says if the government does not pay back within the financial year, that power by central bank cannot be exercisable. That's the exact word that is being used. They have not been following that. So they have been pumping money. The printing press in the central bank is into overdrive. I know they are trying to stimulate growth. They are trying to see how the country, we were in a recession and they wanted us out of the recession. But one has to be cautious, unless if we want to go the way of Weimar Germany in the 1920s, when the mark was completely worthless. Venezuela or Zimbabwe. I know it's actually an exaggeration. We're not there yet, But if we continue on this trajectory, we are likely going to be in the same ranks as those other countries. So we and the borrowing again. I know in Keynesian economics, if you want to, the economy is on a downturn, and you want to bring it out. Maybe it's experiencing, it's receding, it's experiencing depression or whatever, and you want to bring it out. You can embark on expansionary monetary and fiscal policy, yes. But you don't just do it the way you feel like. It has to be applied with caution. You borrow, you print money, and make sure you don't just print money for frivolities. I don't mean like everything, the money that is being printed or the borrowing is being used for frivolities, but you only pay for things that can actually pay for themselves down the line. You don't just borrow to pay, for example, salaries. I know livelihoods are dependent on that, but you don't only look at the short run. You look at something that is sustainable, something that you know you can thumb your chest and say, I've actually done the right thing.
Do you think that this could be responsible for the weakening of the Naira?
Of course, is a big factor. Is a big factor. If not the major factor, is one of the most important factors. The Naira is being weakened, and we are an import-dependent economy. We depend on virtually for everything that is being imported. So that weakens the Naira because we demand for foreign currencies by far outweigh the demand for a local currency. So people are willing to shell out as much as possible in Naira in exchange for foreign currency. So that definitely will make the value of the Naira to fall. And besides that, I was discussing with somebody, if you had, let's say, $1 million Naira worth of money a year ago, and you saved it in dollars, the money would have almost doubled by now, using parallel market exchange rates. But if you had saved your 1 million Naira then, and you want to access it now to use it, the value would have gone down by almost 50%.
Right.
So Nigerians are wising up, and they realize that keeping Naira, actually saving in Naira terms, may not actually be the best, and that actually exacerbates the problem because it increases the demand for dollar. So we have a serious problem, and we need to actually come up with solutions, not short-term, not quick fixes, not cosmetic solutions. We need to look at the long run. I know it's not actually easy because the situation is already there and you want to do everything possible to get out of it. But if we continue with this mindset, just looking for anything to be out of the situation will keep recurring. So we have to really sit down, and the thing is we need to be an exporting country. It's not just about, I was reading about additional. We tend to be, particularly for this government, it tends to be fixated on substituting imports. That means instead of importing, we see how we can produce on our own. There's nothing bad about that. But we should also try to promote export. And by promoting export, you don't just wake up like that and say you want to export yam from Nigeria. It's a process. And Nigeria is one of the harshest places to do business. We need to work on that. You need to encourage everybody to be enterprising, everybody to be productive. You need to stimulate the productive sectors of the economy. If you do that, then you can do a lot of value addition. It's not about exporting oil, exporting primary products. The world has graduated from that. We need a lot of value addition, and anything we want to export to the world, or if you want Nigerians to opt for made in Nigeria products, then if they are not exactly at the level or the quality of the ones we import, then it should be close. Okay. And the government has to set the pace. They have to lead by example. You cannot, like medical tourism, for example, is a serious drain on our reserves. Is not good for the Naira. I'm not trying to say that Nigerians traveling abroad to study is bad. I know they are there to acquire skills. Human capital is also good. But if possible, if we can do these things here, I think that will help. That was my take.
Okay. Now, the World Bank has issued a statement saying Nigeria's inflation rate is fueling crime wave. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree. The inflation is really high. It's going through the roof, and there's nothing that impoverishes like inflation. Your purchasing power is completely chipped away at, and maybe the kind of life you are used to, you cannot afford it anymore. You talked about the prices of kilos of meat, of gari and others, and what people could afford then they can hardly afford now. So some people resort to crime because they want to make ends meet, they want to keep body and soul together. So that actually fuels it because people hardly feed. And mind you, the food inflation component of our inflation is actually worse than the core and other parts of inflation. So to feed is even a problem for most people. So sometimes it's not everybody that is criminal minded. So it's, some crimes are, allow me to say, they are crimes of necessity. So you're compelled to. I'm not justifying it. Any form of crime is bad, but sometimes the situation encourages that. You know, if somebody does something and you feel he doesn't have reason for it, you know that person is just hell-bent on doing it. But if you're forced by circumstances, then the government or people around need to do something about those circumstances. Okay. I'm sure that will help the situation.
All right. Now, yesterday we saw the launching of the Inera by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and some are talking about diaspora remittances, going to be positively impacted by this. Do you see this in any way helping, the economy in terms of strengthening the Naira, for instance?
Well, the Inera is a good thing. It shows that we are forward-looking because the world is evolving. People are moving digital from the old ways of doing things. This is the fourth industrial revolution, blockchain, digital transformation, and so on lead the way. So it's good. It makes transactions more fluid now because you have the Inera. It makes it more seamless than the way it used to be. But I don't think it will directly make the Naira to appreciate in value. If it will help, because we have basically three sources of getting foreign exchange in this country. Either we sell our oil, because that's a major export that we do, or diaspora remittances, or foreign direct investment. So if the Inera will help Nigerians living abroad to send money some more, that will help the value of the Naira. It can help to beef up our foreign reserves, and that's what the Monetary Authority used to defend the international value of the currency. So maybe they have more money to spare, and even for the bureau, the change on the street, they have more people coming to exchange, and if the supply of the dollar can actually go up, that can help the value of the Naira to go up as well.
Okay, now still talking about the Inera, President Muhammadu Buhari said that it's going to rise Nigeria's GDP by $29 billion in 10 years. Is this feasible?
Well, it's a projection, and they have actually extrapolated, but it may not be exactly that. It may be higher, it may be lower, depending on certain things. There's what we call implicit theorizing in economics. Somebody just saying some things in a vacuum. It doesn't occur like that. There are conditions. So if these conditions are met, if all these assumptions happen, then that thing can happen, and possibly even better. It may be better than that. That possibility is there, but depending on doing the right things.
Okay, so what are some of these right things? What are some of the things that we need to put in place to achieve this?
All right, if you make the Inera more acceptable to Nigerians, if Nigerians believe the Inera is actually an alternative to, say, cryptocurrencies, if they have that confidence in it, and maybe foreign investors also have more confidence in the Naira because of the Inera. So some of these things have to happen for the Inera to be the powerful thing or tool that it is meant to be. But if Nigerians don't have confidence in it, foreign investors don't have, Nigerians are reluctant to join the bandwagon of using the Inera, then the chances of the Inera actually spurring growth are really slim.
All right. Now, earlier on, you talk about how difficult it is for people to do business in Nigeria. How can we, make the business environment much more attractive, for people, so that we can export more and be able to strengthen the Naira more and create more jobs and all of that?
There is a ranking, there is a metric for ease of doing business, and I know the vice president has, as well as the committee he leads, has been trying to improve Nigeria's ease of doing business, and I think it's a noble cause. But we are basically paying lip service to that. We're doing next to nothing. What we have been doing is basically cosmetics. We are not ready to do the hard work. We're not ready to get our hands really dirty to have Nigeria out of the doldrums. I was a student at the school, and they invited President Buhari's economic management team chair, Professor Doyin Salami, and I asked him a question. I said, sir, I read a story in Financial Times, and I really felt bad as a patriot. I love my country despite Nigeria's feelings. It's still my fatherland. If you can, let's say you leave Nigeria, like we say in Nigeria, you japa, you leave. You still have your loved ones here, so you are permanently connected to this country, whether you like it or not, and we have no choice than to be as patriotic as we can. And I told him, I read the story. The story said to import a container from China to, say, Lagos, for example, it takes, and then that container from a port in Lagos to a warehouse somewhere in Lagos, it costs more in money, and it takes more time to take it from the port to the warehouse as it is from China to Nigeria to the port. And I said, people are sleeping. As a leader, I don't think I can sleep if I read such a story. But it seems we are so numb to all these things now, and we see them as normal. I think there's nothing that demonstrates the harshness of our doing business like that. It should not be difficult to take a container from the port to a warehouse somewhere within the same city. It shouldn't be. And the people in power, the advisors, they all know the right things. But knowing the right thing is one thing. Then doing it is another thing. I think there is no will for people to get things done. I mean, for the leadership to get things done. If the political will is there, I'm not saying it's easy. Anybody that says it's easy may not be true honest. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you're determined, there's this popular saying that where there is a will, there is a way. If you're determined, I'm not saying that Nigeria will suddenly become the best place to do business overnight. No. It takes a lot of grinding, a lot of hard work. But if we can start, and we should look at the long haul, don't only look at what you can get immediately, like Okonjo-Iweala the other day was talking about our tariffs being high, and that discourages trade between Nigeria and other countries. So these are things that need to be done, but I don't think anybody is serious about doing these things.
Okay. Now, with the way our economy is going, do you think Nigeria has an economic recovery plan?
Yes, they have an economic recovery and growth plan, as they say. And I think, in all fairness to them, they're doing what they think will bring Nigeria take Nigeria out of the woods. But we are still playing the ostrich. We still don't want to do the hard things that need to do in diversifying the economy. That's the way out of Nigeria's situation. As long as we don't diversify, and what I mean by diversifying in terms of our exports, because our economy as a whole is highly diversified. The oil that we're so dependent on for our foreign exchange earnings and for government income is 90% of foreign exchange earnings, in the region of 90%. For government income is around 50%. So that's where the diversification is. But in terms of GDP, oil is less than 10% of our economy. So in terms of GDP, our economy is highly diversified. But when you look at those things, that's where we have issues. And that's why we need to diversify the economy. We need to look for ways to export other things besides oil. And even the diaspora remittances, if we want to encourage Nigerians living abroad to bring in their money, we need to maybe allow them, give them the rights to vote, for example, and make it very easy for them to bring their money. And our security, the insecurity in Nigeria is not helping matters. Investors are taking their money. If you look at our balance of payment, it's not really favorable. It's actually in the negative territories. So we need to work on all these things. If we can actually work on them, I think that will really go a long way.
Okay. Now, in your opinion and your observation of the economy as we have it now, what are the areas that, areas like, for instance, in infrastructure that need urgent attention to be able to create this, economic environment?
There are actually so many things, but there is one that is actually overarching, that is actually overriding. Power. If we can fix the problem of power, I think, if you ask me to just pick one thing, I think that should be it. There are other things I'm not disputing. There are many things that we need to do. But the most important thing, the linchpin, if you ask me, is fixing the problem of power. And if we have a problem, as a country, if we feel we cannot fix power on our own, why can't we go cap in hand to, let's say, General Electric, or we go to Tesla? I'm not saying that those are the only options. There are so many options that we can explore. But these are the ones that I know they have been successful. Why can't we approach them? Like when they were trying to privatize power in Nigeria, they sold it to politicians. What can a politician do to fix the problem of power? So that's why I said we're not ready to do the hard work.
And for as long as I can remember, we've been talking about this power issue. But before we will talk more, on these issues, let's go on a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other, dimensions to the conversation about Nigeria's economic growth. Please stay with us.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes, with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction. Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004. From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, a load of 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja, and we've been discussing, recent happenings and the rising cost of living in Nigeria. Nigerians have continued to grow, and in fact, we're seeing a man who is putting himself on sale as a result of what he considered difficulty in trying to make ends meet. And we have in the studio Dr. Simon Galadima in the studio, an economist, giving us perspectives on these recent happenings. Now, Nigeria has borrowed a lot of money from China in the name of investing in capital, projects and all of that. But again, some experts like you have raised reservations about some of the conditions, of getting those loans and all of that. Do you think that Nigeria is relating fairly with some of these countries, like China, for instance?
Actually, we have been binge borrowing for a while now, and domestically we have been, internationally, and not only from China, from World Bank, we have issued Euro bonds on several occasions. So those people, like the Chinese, they don't run a charity. What they do with those loans is to pursue their own interests. And China is well known for unfair trading practices, businesses. They're out to get you. And they are really efficient in what they do. The Chinese are very efficient. They're really result-oriented, and they are no nonsense. So if they give you money, they expect you to abide by the guidelines, and if you don't do, they may confiscate your pot. I jokingly told somebody that maybe if they confiscate our pot, it may be to our favor. They will run it better than we do. Sadly, I'm not proud to say it, but they will definitely run it better than us. And the truth is, they may use it to project their own national interest, not our own national interest, to push for their own agenda, not our own agenda. So we have borrowed from China, but the borrowings from China might have been exaggerated by I don't know whether media or the general population. We owe probably more from Eurobonds and multilateral agencies than China. So the Chinese feel that it serves their interest to lend money to us, and we should not just get carried away because they're always willing to give us money. We have to look at what that money can do. If I'm borrowing $2 billion from the Chinese, let's say to build a railway from Kano to Maradi, will that railway pay for itself? Is it worth it economically? Is it economically viable? Like Sanusi will say, you don't build a railway for people to go for a wedding. It doesn't make sense. You have to look at the economics, how much it's going to cost you, not only now, but down the line, and then what you can get from it. So you have to weigh, you have to do cost-benefit analysis, and if you feel it's worth it, it can actually pay for itself, not the one that you'll be collecting money for generations yet unborn to come and pay because you have not used it. But in all honesty, the way we are borrowing is not sustainable at all. It's not sustainable, and we need to do a lot of things. I know that it's not popular to say that we need to work on, let's say, VAT. I know people don't like to be taxed, but we are living in denial if we don't want to be taxed, and then government borrows, inflation goes up, our currency is devalued, and then somebody, I think it was Milton Friedman, that said inflation is taxation without representation. Because if they tax you, I remember when government wanted to increase VAT, they said they're going to use it to do certain things. But when inflation, when there is a general increase in the price level, is indirectly taxation. But you are not being told what the money is being used for. So I think Nigeria has one of the lowest revenue to GDP ratios in the world. So our taxation is poor. I don't know if it's from the rate or from the agencies actually collecting the money. there are so many problems along the line, and we need to look at all these things if we were serious about spurring economic growth in Nigeria.
Okay. Well, some experts, are of the opinion that it is lack of credible monetary policy anchors that we have in Nigeria that is failing, the elevated inflation rates we're seeing. Some are saying that CBN is doing so much at the same time.
Yes, they have a point. The Monetary Authority has actually been too powerful, and I think it may be a bit controversial to say this, but I think the independence of the central bank is a bit suspect. I think the Monetary Authority is too eager to pander to the government. I know our own climate may not actually be the best in terms of rule of law, but I was discussing with somebody and I was being critical about the central bank, and the person said I should put myself in that position. I said, yes, I understand where they're coming from, but you should strike a balance. I know they're trying to help, but the way they are going about it is not actually the best, and that indirectly undermines the entirety of the central bank, sadly, because you print money to give to the government, you embark on anchor borrowers, you try to give money to the needy, you give money to banks when they are experiencing difficulties. But you have to look at these things, that you don't just give money to farmers to farm. You have to be sure that if I pump, let's say, 100 billion into the economy, production will also go up by at least 100 billion. If the production doesn't go up by 100 billion, let's say it goes up by 50 billion, it's actually going to be inflationary. Right. It's going to cause inflation. So,
all right. Now, the government is talking about removal of fuel subsidy, for instance, to enable them, invest in other projects and all of that. And that conversation has lingered for quite a while. Some people say, look, it's for the benefit of Nigerians that this subsidy is removed and all of that. How do you see the removal of this subsidy impacting on the livelihoods of Nigerians? Because it automatically means that the cost of the price of fuel will jack up, definitely, and Nigerians will have to be paying for that. How will that impact on incomes, low-income earners, for instance?
I'm actually an advocate for subsidy removal, and my reason for that is that the resources being used for subsidy are better utilized elsewhere. But when you remove subsidy and you don't utilize the resources as efficiently as you should use them, then you actually have a double whammy on your hands. You have punished the population by making them to pay more for fuel that they use, and then the money that you are taking away to cover for that subsidy, you don't use it well. So if, in all honesty, you take away that subsidy and then you direct the money to, say, fixing the problem of power, for example, helping with the insecurity that we have and other infrastructure, if in all honesty that's what you are going to do, then by all means, please remove the subsidy. It's going to have it has downside. I'm not saying removing subsidy, apart from the direct burden on the population, is going to be inflationary as well. So it's going to, but I think the benefits by far outweigh the costs if things will be done rightly.
All right. Now, let's take a look at other issues here. Another issue that is of importance that we've touched just a bit earlier on is the issue of taxation and all of that. How do we, expand our tax net, in Nigeria to have more Nigerians pay tax? Because at the moment, it looks like just a few pay the tax, and it's becoming more like a burden.
Yes, I remember saying that we have one of the lowest tax revenue to GDP in the world, and I think it should be something that would stop, let's say, the chief executive or the the chair at the FIRS from sleeping. He should be thinking about how to do it, or at least the Minister of Finance. You have to bring more people into the tax net, yes, but the people that are paying, they have to see that what they are paying is actually being used properly. If people don't have confidence that when they pay, the money will be used, they will look for ways to evade taxes and even avoid taxes. But if I'm sure that when I pay my taxes and I will actually see it, I think people will be encouraged to do that. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but if you're convinced that it's actually the right thing to do, that is actually good. Nigerians are patriotic. I know patriotism sometimes does not pay, sometimes. I'm not disputing anywhere in the world, not only in Nigeria. But largely, you know that it serves your interest in the long run to do certain things right. And I feel many Nigerians are that reasonable.
All right, well, let's go on a quick break now. And then when we come back, our discussion will continue on the program. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Nice to see you, son. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a shill boy. Yeah. And how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allow it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. I'm Ayubele, and of course, I'm in the studio with Dr. Simon Galadima, and he's given us thoughts on the recent happenings as far as Nigeria's inflation is concerned. Now, on your final thoughts now, how do we, ensure that we don't continue to experience this, spike in the cost of things in the market? How can Nigerians at least have some level of comfortable life to be able to, feed properly, in summary?
All right. Inflation is actually a huge problem, and small amount of inflation is actually good for an economy when it's single digit. In developed countries, the ideal level of inflation for them is 2%. Ours is 6 to 9%. So it's actually good for an economy because it encourages people to spend and it spurs demand and growth eventually. But when inflation is extremely high, like when it's double digit like we're experiencing at the moment, is actually bad for the economy. It makes investors to lose confidence. It makes consumers as well to lose confidence. And right now, what the Naira needs is for more people to believe in it, not less. So the best approach for this is to increase the productive base of the economy. Now, we need to be more productive than we are already. We need to do a lot of value addition. We should not only talk about import substitution, but we should find ways to promote export. I jokingly always tell my friends that if I'm in position of power, because the government can only do as much, so there's a limit to what the government can do. But when you make the environment really friendly, you make it really conducive for economic prosperity, the work will be done by others. What you just need to do is just to make it really friendly. Making Nigeria the easiest place to do business. There are metrics, there are authorities that have all these measurements, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You go to, I know that the ease of doing business might have been discredited by what happened when the current chief executive of IMF was at the World Bank, a land that the Chinese influenced it, and because they have fear now that people no longer have confidence in ease of doing business, they have stopped it. But the metrics are there, and the metrics do not change. They have not been compromised. So you know the right things. So look at the right things, and if it's not something that a layman can relate to, get somebody that really understands it. And as a government, push it with all of your might. If a country like people like the Chinese can be so conscious, can be so determined about having good rankings for ease of doing business, what do you expect for a country like ours that we're still down there? I think we need to do something about that.
All right. All right, then. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing your thoughts with us on the program. We are really, really super happy to have you around. Hopefully you'll join us again for another time on the program.
Yes, I also had some fun. I had a nice time.
Yes. We've been speaking with Dr. Simon Galadima, and he's been sharing with us perspectives on the recent rise in inflation in the country. Now, we will be taking a look at sports in 60 seconds. Okay, I just got information that we'll be bringing sports later. But for now, we'll have to end the show. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you so much for watching, and we will have you join us again tomorrow for another time on the program. Bye for now.